This video is sponsored by Adobe Firefly, but I want to talk about something that's a little bit personal to me today, and that is when I was a kid, my granddad, he was a painter and decorator, and I think I was living with my grandparents at the time, and he used to bring home these kind of like ends of wallpaper because he was painter and decorator, and me and my nan would then sit for hours cutting out different shapes and things like that, and making different kind of like collages and making different designs from those kind of like scraps of paper and ends of wallpaper. And today I wanted to see if I could recreate something similar inside of Adobe Firefly, the sponsor of today's video, to do something that kind of like brought back that feeling for me and that kind of like look to an image. So let's dive into Adobe Firefly and take a look. First off, what we're going to do is bring in our images, and you do that by clicking on the side icon here, just in the left hand side panel, and you can bring them in from your device, or you can bring in other items that you've already created inside of Adobe Firefly and then add them to your artboard. I've created an artboard here. To do that, you just click on this item up here and you can then drag and create an artboard, change the color, etc. All of those good things inside of Adobe Firefly. Now for this one, I've brought in a few images of me when I was snowboarding, and what I wanted to do was recreate a kind of like paper cutout kind of like collage feel to this. And this is the prompt that I'm using to create the collage of a person snowboarding down a mountain, and as they come down the mountain in the snow, there's butterflies off the back of the snowboard, because I wanted to kind of create that kind of like energy and give it a feeling of kind of like coming down the mountain. Now to do this, we're going to come down to our generate image. We're going to choose the partner model of Gemini 3, and then we're going to paste in our kind of prompt that we've got here. And then for the image selection, we want to have those image references. So we're going to click on the eyedropper tool, and we're going to add in there those images that we've added to our artboard here. So now we've got our images selected there, we've got our prompts. All we need to do is click generate, and I'd normally click generate 2 or 3 times to see kind of like what results we get. Now to save time, I've gone ahead and actually already generated these images and added them into my artboard. You can see here we've got some really cool images. We've got me kind of like looking like I'm cut out, and we've got some kind of like butterflies, but it actually, if I zoom in here, you can see it's actually got this really cool kind of like paper cutout feeling. And this for me was kind of like in my mind's eye, kind of what I wanted to create, and kind of give it that kind of like energy as if we'd done some scrapbooking. And I would spend hours doing this with my nan, kind of like just cutting out bits of paper, cutting out things like if there was like butterflies in the wallpaper, we'd cut those out and just create collages of how they looked and how they felt. On this one here, you can see it's a little bit kind of like more on the realistic side. We've got the mountains there from the photograph that we had. If I scroll back up here, you can see this is kind of like the mountains that we had. So you can kind of like imagine having cut those out and the image of me up here. And that's kind of like what we've got. We've got those there. And then we kind of like started getting a little bit more arty with the images that it was creating. And I really liked these 3 images here that I kind of like really enjoyed the look of. And then I kind of like thought to myself, this would be really cool if I could turn this into a vector style image and maybe add this to a poster. Now to take this into a poster kind of like design is really easily. And for this one, I kind of wanted to just point out that what I'd actually done here is I'd added on the end here to say change the position of the rider and make it look like they're coming down the mountain with the butterflies swirling round the person to show the energy of the snow and the powder of that snow coming off. And I think this one here for me really captured that. And I know it kind of like changed the look and feel of the jacket, but I'm not going for kind of like realistic image of me. If I wanted to do that, I would ask it to keep the same color of the jacket and things like that. Now for this next phase in the design process, I wanted to turn this kind of scrapbook looking image into more of a vector style image to then probably be able to use it for maybe like a poster for a fictional kind of like snowboarding event or something like that. So we're going to take this image, and you can see if I scroll those up here, we've actually created this into a vector style image. And for me, it's still got that same look and feel as if it's been cut out from paper. If I click on load, you can see there what I've done is I've selected the actual scrapbook image in here and selected Gemini 3 and said turn this image into a vector style image to look flat but keep the same look and feel of the image. And then for these two here, what I ended up doing was copying the actual vector image, which I was really pleased with. And I said turn this image into a vector style image, but change the colors to be bright and electric though. And that's exactly what it's done. So we've got a couple of different options here of that same image, but it's changed the coloring of those images and changed kind of like, yeah, they're not exactly the same, but it's still got the same energy and feeling to them, in my opinion. And I decided to go with this one. And what I then did was I actually upscaled this using Topaz, and we'd select the subtle creativity and choose 4K and click generate. And that's where it's then created this much bigger image. And then I can choose to click on the side here and open this up inside of Adobe Express. I can select multiple images and open those up all inside of Adobe Express. But what I wanted to do before I do that, because that's going to be video 2 and that's going to be coming out tomorrow if you're watching this on day 1. However, I will link that down below and at the end credits for you as well. But what I wanted to do was create something and have this looking as a poster. So I went away and looked at kind of like poster ideas and different kind of like things like that. And I played about with those images, both with the paper cutout version, and this was the result that I got. We've got the Summit Drift Open snowboarding event in the French Alps in July. If you're in the French Alps in July, you're not going to be snowboarding up there. So this event doesn't exist. It is just a fictitious event. But I kind of like thought that I really liked the look and feel of how these turned out. And then I thought, well, what I could do is actually create a version of this in Adobe Express. So we're taking our original image, we're exporting that into Adobe Express, and we're going to add in there some text and other designs. But that's a video for a different day. And if you've enjoyed this video, do click like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you get notified of when that part 2 comes out. If it is out already, because I'm going to be filming it straight after this one, I'll put a link to it down in the description below and also at the end credits so you can go watch it right now.